Hi, I'm Tim Gaffney, and this is part 4 of my virtual book talk about old breweries here in Miamisburg, Ohio. Miamisburg is where I live, and it's one of several communities I researched for my book, Dayton Beer, A History of Brewing in the Miami Valley. Now, in part 3, I said part 4 would wrap up my series, but since then I came across a wild story that I have to share with you. So to keep this part from getting too long, there will be one more part after this. Previously, I told you about George Wilhelm Nuss, or William Nuss. He built the Miami Valley Brewery between the Miami and Erie Canal and the foot of Mount Hill, where the community park runs today. He was the brewer there from 1873 until his death in 1881. The brewery changed hands twice in 1882. It isn't clear if it was operating at this time, but in 1883, August Victor Keene bought the brewery property for $21,000. He formed a new corporation, but kept the Miami Valley Brewery's name. Keene was an immigrant from Amish Fear, a town in northeastern France. He was one of a few non-German brewers I found in my research. But Amish Fear has close ties to Germany. It's just 14 miles west of the Rhine River, and it was in the Alsace region that was annexed by the new German Empire in 1871. Keene left there the next year and immigrated to the United States. He made his way to Cincinnati, became a brewer in the Jackson Brewery, and married Catherine Thoyerling, a Hamilton native. Now, the Jackson Brewery was one of Cincinnati's biggest. I haven't learned why Keene decided to buy a much smaller brewery in a smaller town, or how he got the money. It might have taken a couple of years to renovate the brewery and put it back in business. An announcement of the reopening was published in an 1885 Miamisburg Bulletin. It proclaimed, "No expense or labor has been spared in refitting this establishment with modern appliances and machinery for the manufacture of a superior article of beer." This 1886 Sanborn insurance map of Miamisburg gives us a detailed view of the brewery and the grounds. The main building was the brew house. Attached structures included a malt house, an ice house, a coal shed, and a wagon shed. Underneath were fermenting and storage cellars. The brew house also included apartments on the upper floor where the Keenes lived. East of the brewery was a bottling house, and a barn and hog pens were to the south. The property also included hen houses and a hillside cistern that supplied the brewery's water. Keene was the earliest Miamisburg brewer whose name I was able to attach to a face. His great-granddaughter, Jan Keene Adams, provided a picture for my book. That's Keene on the left in the black hat. I'm really surprised that Keene isn't remembered for the wild night in 1887 when a gang broke into the brewery, blasted open the safe, and got into a gunfight with Keene. But I had never heard of this until I stumbled across some old newspaper reports just a few days ago. According to the Hamilton Democrat, 5 men entered the brewery on the night of January 4th. Keene, his wife Catherine, and their 2 young children were asleep on the 3rd floor. Downstairs, 2 men began drilling into the office safe while 3 others stood guard. Keene woke up when he heard noises, but when he went to investigate, the men fired up the stairway at him. Keene returned fire while Catherine screamed out the window for help. Bullets flew up and down the stairway for 10 minutes until the 2 safecrackers set a dynamite charge and blew open the door. All they found were papers. The newspaper said Keene didn't keep much cash at the brewery. Nobody got hurt, but the robbers got away. I didn't find any reports of arrests. The newspaper speculated it was an out-of-town gang that escaped on a midnight train. It's a romantic notion, and who's to say it wasn't so? That wasn't the last harrowing moment in Keene's tenure at the brewery. Early on the morning of March 25, 1889, fire broke out in the brewery. The March 29 Miamisburg Bulletin reported that flames destroyed the whole upper floor of the establishment. Had the fire broken out at midnight, the paper continued, the whole family might have perished. They escaped, but the paper added, Mrs. Keene has determined to live hereafter in town. The fire also burned up the brewery's malt supply, but the brewing work survived. The Bulletin reported Keene had more malt shipped up from a supplier in Hamilton and was brewing again by the end of the week. Its March 29th edition assured readers that Keene would have the brewery repaired in short order, but on April 12th, it reported he was returning to the Jackson Brewery in Cincinnati, where he became its foreman. Keene moved on to a brewery in Zanesville before finally settling in Marietta, Ohio. He became president of the Marietta Brewing Company and died there in 1913. Well, that wraps up Part 4. In Part 5, I'll tell you what finally happened to the Miami Valley Brewery and conclude this series on old breweries in Miamisburg, Ohio. In the meantime, you can find my book locally at Barnes & Noble booksellers and at Carillon Historical Park in Dayton. You can also find it online from Amazon.com, either in print or as a Kindle ebook. And don't forget to support our local brew pubs, Star City Brewing and Lucky Star Brewery and Cantina, both located in historic downtown Miamisburg. And if you get a thirst for history, think about joining your local historical society. And remember, read prodigiously, drink moderately, and wash your hands. Cheers.